Thank you so much for joining me on this webinar. I'm Kesab Che, I'm the CEO of PredictX. And I wanted to thank the GBTA because I've heard that this webinar is one of the most, has the highest registration, one of the highest registrations in the history of GBTA. And I must say a shout out goes out to my friend Caroline Strachan, who helped to get the word out as well. So thank you, Caroline. She can't attend today, but that's all right. So if you're like me, you've been amazed by how quickly AI has gone from an interesting concept to reality. It has the potential, and actually, let me rephrase that. It will change almost everything about our lives, both personal and professional. This webinar is being hosted by the GBTA, the Global Travel Managers Association, and but I know that some of you don't work in travel and expense, and that's fine. A lot of the examples I'm going to be talking about is in the travel space, but actually the concepts that we're going to cover will apply to every domain and every business need. So let's get started. When Sundar Pichai, who said AI will be more profound than fire, electricity, or the internet, some thought it was hyperbole, and now I think it was an understatement. So I'd like to share the result of the poll question. When you guys signed up, there was a poll that asked you a simple question, which was, please tell us about your use of ChatGPT. And over 25%, 27% has said that you've used ChatGPT in the past. 56% said, I've heard of ChatGPT, but I haven't used it yet. And about 17% said, I've not heard of ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is really the single application that probably put AI on the map. And it's one of the fastest growing adoption there's ever been in software. As of a week or two ago, there was 100 million users, which sounds like a massive amount, and it is a massive amount in growth terms in the last six months. That's really, if you think about it, it's still less than, less than 2% or something, 1% of humanity. So there's a lot more to go. So what I'd like to do now is ask one more poll question. So I will try to do this for you. So I'd like you to answer one more follow-up. So for those of you who said you've used ChatGPT in the past, can you answer this question? So have you used ChatGPT to help you with your work? Moving around, most of you are saying no, no, no. You've used it some, but you haven't really found it useful yet. I've used it extensively and have found it useful, 24%, 23%. Excellent. So I'm going to end the poll here. It seems pretty stable. And share the results. There, you can see the results there, can't you? So that's actually quite interesting. It can't, well, I'm going to talk about ChatGPT in a little bit. So, let's come back to this. So now we want to thank, well, PredictX and Sherry.ai, who's our AI partner and a new startup in the AI space, for sponsoring this webinar. And of course, as sponsors insist, we have a small video that we'd like to share with you. And hopefully you can hear it. So let's try this.
We stand here today to celebrate the triumph of PredictX, which faced insurmountable challenges but refused to succumb to the chaos and disarray of fragmented data sources, poor data quality, and the lack of truly smart tools that worked for the travel manager. Instead, with AI, they gave travel managers hope in a brighter future full of opportunity and a chance to shoot for the moon. PredictX didn't build these tools because they were easy, but because they were hard. The challenge of a shifting landscape had laid siege to travel managers, but PredictX came to the rescue, armed with AI to solve their new problems. They said, "Ask not what our clients can do for us, but what we can do for our clients." Thanks to PredictX, our valiant clients now experience a new future, full of automation, and take back their time and sanity. Truly, now we can all say, "Ich bin ein PredictX."
Good. Thank you very much. Now, in case you're wondering, of course, we didn't hire JFK as a spokesperson. What's interesting, you might find it interesting, is that I actually generated the entire video in less than an hour myself with zero programming. And I'm not a video creator, I'm not a video expert, and it was entirely generated by AI, instructed by me. So first I instructed AI to generate the script, taking aspects of JFK's famous speeches as inspiration. Then I instructed AI to generate the likeness of JFK. So that image doesn't exist. That didn't exist until I generated it. So there's no copyright issues using this particular likeness. I even instructed AI to generate the White House and the Oval Office. Those images did not exist before I created them. Then I asked AI to generate JFK's voice based on a 10-second clip and read the script in his voice. Then I instructed AI to put it all together and have JFK perform the script in the Oval Office with the music to Hail to the Chief in the background. So all of that was done in an hour. If I spent another 2 hours, it would look even better. So this is part of what and how I did this was using what people call generative AI. And what generative AI is actually, I should actually do a presentation, show you a slide deck on generative AI. How lazy of me not to have that prepared in advance. So let's actually do that now. So we're going to generate. Let's create a new slide deck. We're going to create a presentation on the fly about generative AI. Also, I want to talk about large language models. Explained, and how AI, let's say, poses an opportunity and threat for corporate travel managers. Click. So I've instructed AI to generate me a presentation with these concepts. I've already said in advance some of the imagery. I said generate some images in this way. It could have done impressionistic, could have done photorealistic. I asked it to take a futuristic view. So that's it, we've done. So here it is. I'm going to share in presentation mode. AI's double-edged sword, how generative AI and large language models are revolutionizing corporate travel management. So I don't know what this generated. And let's just go through it together. Okay, introduction to generative AI, large language models, opportunities for corporate travel managers, threats posed by AI, mitigating risks, in conclusion. So generative AI is a form of artificial intelligence. And as it says here, it's use of algorithms to generate new content. So for instance, JFK's likeness was actually generated from vectors, from the actual pixels on up. So it's not taking an existing photo and retouching it or editing it. It's actually generating it from scratch. And where it gets really interesting, and it's tied to what's called large language models. which is actually the basis of ChatGPT. So it's basically what it is a series of, it's a huge, deep neural network that has been trained on a vast amount of data. We're talking most of the visible web. It has what they call parameters of 1.7 trillion parameters. And like OpenAI's ChatGPT, well, this is 175 parameters. GPT-4 has 1.7 trillion parameters. And in a sense, what large language models do is like autocomplete on steroids. So you see, with semantic knowledge, it understands the meaning of what you're talking about, and then starts generating the content using that generated word or concept to then figure out what the probability of the next word, so on and so forth. So it can generate entire sentences, entire paragraphs, entire documents. That's large language models. So let's see what this tool talked about for corporate travel managers. Let's see, it can be used to automate the booking process, yes. Provide personalized recommendations, yes. It can be used to generate natural language responses to customer inquiries, freeing up time for travel managers to focus on more complex tasks. So that last bit is probably the most immediately accessible application of AI for you guys. What are the threats? You have to control it. One of the concerns about ChatGPT is that because it kind of can do everything, and can you control it to give the answers that you really need to control? Doesn't know about who you are. How do you know about any biases or discrimination that it's been trained on? Because if it's been trained on the entire web, and as you know, there are quite a few websites that can be quite biased in one way or another. So it's something that using open tools like ChatGPT you need to be aware of. Mitigate risks with ethical AI practices. A lot of companies are incorporating this into or at least studying it. Certainly, it's just something that we pay a lot of attention to here at PredictX. So in conclusion, it says finding a balance between innovation and responsibility and using AI to enhance human capabilities rather than replace them. And that's really what we want to do to help you. We don't want you to be replaced by AI. We want you to do what I did. Tell AI to do what you wanted to do and generate a video of JFK in the Oval Office talking about PredictX in 1 hour. So I want to now demonstrate another aspect of that generative AI, and let's actually generate an image kind of like what I did before. So let's do that here. So in this tool, there's lots of tools like this, and this just happens to be one that I've used. There's lots of, this is not the one that I used to generate a JFK. So let's just ask it to do something and you follow up with, I'm going to just, let's say, create, misspelled, create a highly detailed photorealistic portrait of a well-dressed, sophisticated, professional. Let's see, her eyes are intelligent, kind. Her stance shows that she is unafraid of the future and is open to new ideas. She embraces the future with a smile. The background is the Grand Canyon, let's say. And let's have this scene at sunset, make it pretty. And if you guys, any of you are photographers, I want a shallow depth of field. Let's hope it works. So it's interpreting my instruction, It's generating the vectors and all of the bits and bobs it needs to create these images of a highly sophisticated, well-dressed travel professional embracing the future, etc. So I would take this and now clean it up a little bit, change a little bit of the prompts to get it to exactly what I want. But here's an example of generative AI in terms of generating pictures and other sort of visual content. If we have time at the end, I'll generate a song for you with lyrics and all of that, but let's see how we do with time. Let's see, check on time. I think we're okay. So let's go to ChatGPT. Okay. So it can do a lot of cool things. So one of the challenges, let me see if I can move the dock. I'm struggling because the little zoom thing is on the bottom and I need it to be on the top. Hide floating meeting controls. Excellent. Okay. So a challenge from Caroline was write a poem about NDC. Okay, so let's try to do this. First, I need to check that it knows what NDC is. Do you know what NDC is in terms of travel bookings? Yes. Stands for new distribution capability. Yeah, okay, very good. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit bigger for you. Do go ahead and adjust your Zoom settings as you like so you can see the screen better. I've just made the screen a little bit easier to read. Okay, I'm going to stop generating. Yeah, it's just showing up. It knows all about NDC. Let's see, can you write a poem about NDC? Let's see. Let's give it some context. Describing a long cycle, initial excitement of the potential, the disappointment of delays, and the resurgence, promise of rebirth. That's it. And then let's give it, please write in iambic pentameter, good enough for Shakespeare's sonnets and Wordsworth and Chaucer, so that should be good enough for us. Let's see how it does. Upon a dawn with prospects bright and high, NDC the new was whispered in the sky. In travel's realm, a beacon pure and grand, to shed its light across the air and land. In code, tongues of XML so fine, to shape the dreams of journeys so divine, excitement stirred, hopes held aloft in flight. A future forged in data's boundless might, but progress oft is not a steady climb. An early promise succumbed to press of time. The whispers turned to sighs, the light grew dim as delays did wear the early vigor thin. Despair did spread its shadow cold and long, silencing the hopeful progress sung. Yet even in the depths of dark dismay, the dream of NDC refused to fray. A spark ignited, pulsing in the night, signaled NDC's determined, dogged fight. Rebirth arose, the phoenix from the gray, promising to light anew the way. Now stronger, wiser, shaped by trial and test, NDC stood tall, a phoenix from the nest. Its promise renewed, its purpose crystal clear, to change the face of travel far and near. In cycles, thus do revolutions spin, first a whisper, then a mighty din. Through disappointment's night and dawn's rebirth, NDC promises a brighter earth. Pretty good. So going back to your use of ChatGPT for your business, there's a few reasons why I would give it some caution. So one is its terms of service and indemnification. So let's actually ask it some questions about it. Can you tell me about OpenAI indemnification clause? If I do something and OpenAI is sued, could OpenAI has to be indemnified for damages and legal costs. Please explain to me in a short, simple paragraph for a lay person. I'm not going to read this. In simple terms, if you use OpenAI's technology in a way it results in a lawsuit, OpenAI can ask you to cover its legal costs and any damages it might have to pay as a result, et cetera, et cetera. So even if you might take a copywritten piece of content, even if it's available, if it's on the web, let's say of a competitor, and even accidentally or without any malice, use it in OpenAI, and if that competitor sues OpenAI, and there's no OpenAI can come after you to indemnify its defense. So that's something most legal departments of large corporations, large companies don't like. Other reasons that you need to be careful about OpenAI, as far as you know, is OpenAI ISO 27001 certified. This is the certification for data security. It's not just technology. ISO 27001 also governs personnel training, human resource policies, et cetera. And it's something we have, and it's something that we're audited on a very regular basis. Yeah. It doesn't have ISO 27001. It doesn't have SOC 2. What about PCI DSS? OpenAI has not compliant with the PCI DSS. About GDPR, is it possible for OpenAI to process personal data of an EU citizen outside the EU? It is possible. So I'm going to let it stop generating this. You can ask your questions. I see someone's raised their hand. I'm going to save time at the end to deal with your questions. So just bear with me. And then finally, let's see. How would you advise a user from entering commercially sensitive or personally identifiable data into ChatGPT? So I strongly advise against entering any commercially sensitive or personally identified information to ChatGPT, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to stop generating. So there's some issues that you need to be careful about using ChatGPT for commercially sensitive data and PII data. So what I wanted to do now is talk about our partner Sherry AI and what we're doing to address some of these issues. And of course, it goes without saying, even if ChatGPT had all of these safeguards in place, the key difference is that it doesn't know about you. It doesn't know about your company. It doesn't know about your domain and your business and how to help you. It's a general purpose tool that's used by 100 million people. What you're looking for is something that you can use for your team that's of benefit to your company. That's a very different use case. So Sherry.ai, which basically was just launched recently, and you can go to it if you like. The original inspiration for this was really more as a learning teaching tool. And there's 3 editions. So you can give it content, You can build your own personal ChatGPT. And let me just show you. So the difference is, if you go to, let's go to the pricing screen. There's a free version. So if you guys are interested in trying it out, go ahead and try it out for free. There's a pro version, which has lots of other features. And the key difference between Starter, Pro, and Enterprise is the Enterprise has things like chat using Teams, Slack, email, single sign-on. It's GDPR compliant, data segregated, ISO 27000 certified, PCI DSS certified, commercially sensitive data masking, PII data masking, data loss prevention, client-specific security measures, and so on and so forth. So we're working with Share.ai and have been working with a few companies on a private beta to explore how to use this technology for the T&E team. So I'm just going to show you a quick, really a demo. So here's kind of what you'll get once you sign up. So I'm just going to create a topic from scratch. So a topic can be all of your T&E policies, let's say. So let's do this from scratch. Create a topic. So I'll say T&E policy or GBTA. Now, the policy I'm going to be using is something that I found on the web. I just downloaded an organization called PIDG, which is a non-government organization. I double-check, triple-check to make sure there's no copyright. Like a lot of government entities and NGOs, they make their policies available on the web. So this might be kind of similar to yours. Most of larger companies have many, many different policies. This just happens to be one and something simple that we could use. It has things like authorizations of explains claims, any travel information, ground transport, food and drink, and so on and so forth. Interestingly, it even has a big table at the end for hotel room rates and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create this, and I'm going to bring that in, that exact same document. And what it's doing right now is reading that document, ordering it, preparing it, and putting it in a hub for use later on. So that's done. So that's how fast it goes. You can add as many documents as you like. In fact, you can see, I'll show you here. You can have a hub of all these documents, because I know that a lot of companies have privacy policies, anti-money laundering policies, and all sorts of other policies that's linked to in your policy documents, and very rarely people actually look at it. So let's go back to the one we just created. Other cool thing is you can actually put websites, like maybe as I'll show you later on. Okay, so there's three modes: strict, knowledgeable, and omniscient. So we're in strict mode, and let's start a chat. So I'm now testing this as if I'm you. So let's just ask it some questions. So simple questions that your users might ask. So what is the policy for business class? So now it just created this, right? Literally by dragging and dropping that document. The policy for business class, duration of 5 hours or more, may be booked, etc. I'm not going to read all these questions. You can read them if you like, but it's pretty complete. Now, what I didn't do is I put it on default. You can make it less verbose, more verbose. You can change the tone, all of that. But this is now at the default of strict mode. Now, let's assume that I'm a newcomer to the company. I've never submitted an expense report before. Please explain how I go about submitting an expense report. And hopefully it can answer correctly. Expense report should be submitted using the company's official expense form. In accordance with the policies, form should reflect complete, tells you when the information that needs to be included, etc. So that's pretty complete. And if I were a new person, then that would give me some idea. Now, this is in strict mode. Everything's coming from that one policy document. It's not making anything up. It's not adding, elaborating or anything. How about, can I claim for car mileage? How much? So unlike previous systems, because it's based on this large language model and generative AI, it understands what you're asking for, no matter how you phrase it, in whatever language you're using, whether you're using contractions, using what's misspelled, it doesn't matter. It can deal with it, which is a fantastic innovation if you guys have had used chat bots in the past, especially being stuck at customer service bots that really can't understand you. Let's see, just a few more. I'm going to ask a question that in fact is not in the document on strict mode, and I'm hoping it's going to say I can't actually answer. It's not. Can I expense gifts to clients? So this is not in the document. They don't cover this. Context does not provide information. This is what you want to happen in strict mode. So let's ask a few more questions. What is the hotel rate cap for Brazil? The maximum allowed hotel is $131, etc. Oh, by the way, it's also multilingual. You can ask questions in pretty much any language, 21-ish languages. So what I'll do here is I'll copy and paste this text, and I have a Google Translate here, which I did just testing here, and I will. So that's hotel rate cap in Brazil, and I'm going to change translate it to Portuguese. Copy that, bring it back to Sherry, and then paste it in. So now I'm asking the same question in Portuguese. O limite máximo de tarifa de hotel permito no Brasil, etc., etc. It's a little bit more verbose in Portuguese, which is fine. So you can see the power of this. From the single English document, you have now created a completely dynamically translated a Q&A bot in pretty much every language, which is really cool. So I'm going to change a little bit. Oh, by the way, so now you're happy with this. You can now share this to your organization, either directly in Sherry.ai or other means that we can integrate, like in Teams, like in Slack, or even with email, so that it can automatically deal with all of these questions exactly as you are testing it here. So I'm going to show you another option, which is here. So I'm going to go to this setting. And this, if you look at it, we've set it up with giving it a Wikipedia page of visa requirements, and I've changed the mode to knowledgeable mode. Okay, so let's just test this a little bit. So we'll ask some questions. Okay, so this is going to be more difficult now. So I have a flight with a layover. Each leg is 3 hours long. I have to stay overnight in Iceland. Not that that's a bad thing. And I fly business class. So this question isn't in this document exactly, because it's not in Iceland, but however, based in the policy outline, business class flights are permitted for 5 hours or more. duration, da, da, da. So it actually understands the question you're asking and can deal with it. Let's try another one. Oh, remember the question it couldn't answer before. It's in strict mode, when I asked it, can I expense gifts to clients? It says, the context I've been given doesn't address that. So let's ask the same question in knowledgeable mode. Can I expense gifts to clients? Policy does not explicitly state, however, it's recommended to seek prior approval from a member of the PIDG Exco, chair of the company board, entertaining third parties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it understands sort of the meaning of the document as well, and from that can infer what the best response should be, even if that explicit question wasn't there, which is very cool. Let's do a couple more. What do I do if I lost my receipts for my entertainment? Okay, so again, this isn't exactly there. If the receipt is lost, individuals should provide as much information as possible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this, I think, is a really good explanation, even though lost receipts is not actually in the document. One more thing. Now, this is the scourge of expense managers everywhere. Not that anyone would be dumb enough to ask this question. Let's do this. I lost my receipt. Can I use a fake receipt? No. Using a fake receipt is not acceptable. You should get a duplicate. However, submitting a fake receipt is considered fraud. It's not allowed. This is not in the document, but it understands that this is not a good thing. Okay, it's a knowledgeable mode. So let's try a couple more things with this. Now, can it help your travelers beyond just policies? As a US citizen, do I need a visa to travel to Turkey? How do I get it? Okay, US citizens are required, and you can get it through online through Turkish electronic visa, et cetera, at least 1 month. Nice. So that's a question answered. So let's try even more sort of personal help to the traveler. Okay, so I'm flying London to LA. Can you recommend how I get to my hotel in Beverly Hills? Flying. Assuming, okay, I should have said LAX. Take a taxi, ride sharing service, private car, public transportation options is available. Not be as convenient or time efficient. Important note that if the traveler is going through a foreign country, has to clear US border, obviously not in the document. Okay, so let's do a couple more things. I'm going to start a new chat as well with a new subject. What about just something like this? Can you suggest a good restaurant, Beverly Hills, for a client dinner? Several good restaurants in Beverly Hills for client dinner. It's important to note that according to the company's expense policy, level expenditure head should not typically exceed $65 for evening meal, but you can go to Wolfgang Puck, Il Pastaio, Matsuhisa. Matsuhisa, I would highly recommend, guys. That is, Matsuhisa is Matsuhisa Nobu. That's his restaurant before Nobu started. I think this will be over my $65 limit. So what do I do if my meal with a client is over 100 USD? According to the policy, third parties as directors, claims above this level must be authorized by a member of a PIDG executive as soon as practicable after the event. Client costs over $100. Okay, so very sensible advice from my tool here. Lastly, bleisure is obviously very common these days. I have a free day in Los Angeles. Can you recommend some sightseeing venues? Can you create an itinerary for me? Let's say from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thinking. I hope this works. It may not. Still thinking. Still thinking. I think I've stumped it. Let's actually try this one more time. Oh, look at that. Oh, excellent. It wants me to go to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Not sure I want to do that. Griffith Observatory, very nice. Should for lunch go to the Grand Central Market? Yes. Getty Center. Amazing art at the Getty Center. Go to the Santa Monica Pier. Enjoy your sightseeing adventure. Thank you. So in knowledgeable mode, you have the control of the tone, the additional information it has, it understands, and the behavior, and it's completely under your control. So I have one more quick thing I want to show you. So there is another mode, you might have seen it, it's just omniscient mode. Omniscient mode. Now this is designed for you guys, for your internal use. So think about it as another knowledgeable member of your team or an expert T&E consultant that's always at your fingertips to help you run your business. So you can answer ad hoc questions you might get from stakeholders, like what is the distance traveled and approximate CO2 emissions for a flight from to LA? Let's hope it can answer that. Yeah, approximately 5,400 miles, and the CO2 emissions roughly about 1.4 metric tons of CO2. So that's cool. Let's start a new chat just so it doesn't get too confused. So remember those hotel rate caps. So, okay, so what is the rate cap for Brazil? That was a question we asked in Portuguese before, and it did very well. Oops, hold on, didn't do so well. I think I might need to give it, what is the hotel rate cap Brazil in appendix C? Sometimes I need to reset. Okay, excellent. So, okay, now can you display the hotel rate table in appendix C? So I just wanted to now show me that entire table of rate caps. Okay. Well, it doesn't show me that. So let's try something. Let's try new chat one more time. Let's see, as an exercise, can you recreate a table in Appendix C, but with a room rate at 15% higher? Okay, table with room rates 15% higher. Appendix C. Okay, it's acting up on me, not helping me do this right now. So let's just try one more time. So it's a completely different question. Okay, it's because it knows about the policies I've given it. Okay, based on your knowledge of industry best practices, are there any policies you think can be added to and improved in the PIDGTNE policy document? Okay, section on sustainability in the PIDGTNE policy. It doesn't have one of those. Should encourage eco-friendly hotels, etc. Policy could guidelines on carbon emissions. Another improvement could be include more specific guidelines on entertainment expenses. Finally, the policy could benefit from more detailed instructions on how to submit expense claims and what documentation is required to streamline them. Okay, cool. So let's let it help me do that. So as an exercise, can you draft me a document for PIDG on sustainable travel? Yes, I can draft a document. There we go. Sustainable travel policy. Purpose. Purpose of the policy is to promote sustainable travel. Scope applies to all PIDG participants. Travel mode. Participants are encouraged to use sustainable modes of transportation, etc. Accommodation. Participants are encouraged to choose environmentally friendly hotels that maybe have a green key or a LEED. Carbon offsetting. Carbon offset program, recognize third party. If you have a carbon offset program, of course. Expense reimbursements, so sustainable travel, monitoring, reporting. Let's see. It sounds pretty good. So it's written a draft sustainable policy document that it identified as being missing in the original T&E policy document. And if you want to do more editing of this, you can then just simply copy it, paste it into your Word, and fine-tune it. So I think that's all I need to show you right now. So let's take some questions. Let's see. Let me see. I have some questions here. Okay. Could you theoretically ask it to search the web for in-policy flight options based on travel policy, says Hader de Freitas at Walt Disney. Thank you for the question. I wouldn't say the web. I would say dedicated sources. So for instance, we could, through API, if we partnered with a GDS, have the inventory available based on your policies being fed through. So that is possible, yes. Let's see, can you demonstrate how this can replace or help the travel management company service its clients better? We don't want to say replace, augment, improve is a better term than replace, but I think it's pretty obvious all the things that it can do. I hope maybe that question was asked a little bit earlier than before. Let's see, can I use Sherry.ai for other use cases like HR, corporate compliance, etc. Absolutely. So it's not, there is training that we would have to do for those use cases. It's not huge. Most of the time, you can just drag and drop these documents as I've done, point it at sources as I've done, and it will understand and be able to be functional within minutes, as you saw in real time. Sometimes it needs to be trained in a very particular, for instance, if you wanted it for your mobile field engineers to use it for testing and maintenance of equipment, that might need a bit more training in terms of the terminology, of the technical terminology. But that's easy. Another question I see is, can educators use it to design tests for students? Well, that was the original intent of Sherry.ai, was for it to be used as education tools for students and for teachers. So it can generate test questions, it can generate flashcards. In fact, one of our private beta users want to incorporate this to generate periodic refresher quizzes on various internal policies like compliance, especially banks and so on. Let's see. How recent is the data in Sherry.ai? The data in Sherry.ai is as recent as the content you give it. This is not ChatGPT where it's limited to a certain time frame. You can point it at any website, which is live today. You can point it at any internal source data, and it will be as live as the source data is. And in terms of static documents, like your policies, it's as live as the information that you generated recently. Let's see. So how do I get Sherry.ai? Let me cover that at the end. How can my company get started using Sherry.ai? Again, I'll come back. Let's see. I have another question here. Are you open to partnership with the TMC? Well, sure. We're open to partnering with any forward-thinking company in the entire ecosystem. So I guess this includes TMCs, consultancies, GDSs, card payment providers. So anyone who wants to incorporate technology such as this to bring value. And we are committed to make sure that AI develops, it's for the good and it's kind. Okay. Any other quick questions? What tertiary learning have you discovered from your data work with Sherry.ai? I'm not quite sure what that means, Will. Tertiary learnings. Well, maybe you mean, unlike ChatGPT, you can tune this. You have control over this. Now, in this omniscient mode, it's different. That is for you. The omniscient mode is a mode that we've turned on for it to go beyond that knowledge. But taking that knowledge and then basically going to the entire world, so to speak, and getting additional information, so it can. So, for instance, you can point it at all of the incredible resources that GBTA has at it on its resources as a member, but maybe you find it hard to access because you need to go there, download it, or look at it. Well, it's something that maybe we can discuss with GBTA later, of having that as a population, something you can one click and having all of those resources available for you. So that's an example. Let's see. So another question came. Will this presentation be available to share with my team members who weren't able to join today? Yes, Mary. So you'll be getting a follow-up email, I think, from GBTA with links to the recording that you can then watch at your leisure and share with your friends and colleagues. So hopefully you got some really interesting things out of this. And how do you, so 3 questions on how do I get it? So let's actually talk about that for a second. So how to secure Sherry.ai for your business. So we're in this private beta. We're working with a few companies who are giving us feedback. Some of those questions that I was asking came directly from the questions that they're asking. They're the experts in this space, we're not. I must say that the response has been unbelievable so far. it is as easy as it looks. What I did on the fly, everything I've done for you today, other than that video, which took me an hour before, was on the fly. So it is, the response has been tremendous. So here's what you do. And we have another question. Are you only going to work with your current clients? Knows the answer to that because we have a partner we're working with, Sherry.ai. So follow PredictX on LinkedIn or sign up to be on our mailing list, and then click on the contact us and Sherry.ai on the enterprise edition, because we're going to be sending those who are subscribing information of how of releasing more private beta. And we're going to be trying to do this in a measured way because otherwise it's going to be frantic. So a pro tip, if you send an email to sherry.ai@predictx.com and tell us about you, your company, and any ideas about how you want to apply AI, it doesn't have to be just in T&E. It could be potentially in HR. It could be potentially in sustainability. It could be in any other domain as well. The more interesting the use cases, quicker you're going to move up the queue, and the more compelling those use cases, again, more interesting for us to work with you. So hopefully that's clear. And I think we're getting to the end of the webinar. So the final word from me. So how I think about it is, if AI is a golf match, I'm not a golf player, but anyway, we're not even end of the first hole, and it's going to explode in ways that's hard to predict. So, but what I am convinced about is that it's going to be disruptive, like the transition from the horse and carriage to the car, like the internet. So in the future, one of the skills you have to know is how to talk to AI, how to have it help you, and how to have it even like you. And we want to help you succeed during this period of disruption, and have you succeed in this period rather than the opposite, I guess. So I think we're about end of time. If there's no other further questions. We have one final question. Sherry.ai have an integrated function to live as a chatbot on a website for your business. Yes, these are part of the integration that we'd be doing on the enterprise class. Like I said before, we can integrate it with Slack, with Microsoft Teams, and even on your personal, in your corporate intranet. That's all to be discussed. The most important thing for us right now is, do you have a really interesting use case? Is it compelling? Do you really want to make this real? Are you that forward-thinking, unafraid woman standing in front of the Grand Canyon that we want to work with? And that's the key for us. So anyway, with that, hope you guys found this session and webinar interesting. Some new concepts. Hopefully, whether you might have heard before, certainly is clearer now, and you have some ideas of how AI can be used today. I'm talking about right now to help you.